Any other start than that. Welcome. My name, for those of you that don't know, is Jim Riley. I am the elections administrator for Gillespie County. A couple of quick details. If you haven't registered to vote for tonight's election, do so. The slips of paper are right there. Write your name on them. We will draw out of a hat. We might not have a big enough crowd that anybody would not get their name drawn. There's no prize, there's no extra candy or anything for this. You'll see the ballot is kind of on the table. The pressing issues in Gillespie County are all addressed right there, and you'll get a chance to vote. There are some pink sheets of paper back there to write a question if you might want to ask a question. I'm not going to be taking questions from the audience, but if you want to write your question there, they'll give me the pink slip later, as some of you would be thrilled to have actually happen. Want to welcome a few folks here tonight. We've got some candidates in the back I see standing. They're a little nervous, can't even sit down. Chris is running for sheriff. The sheriff is running for sheriff. Wes and Charles, look at there. Chuck, you're the bread, you're the meat between the bread of those two running. And Chuck is, of course, running. Those are commissioners. And I'm going to forget and miss somebody probably if they are here. Have I? No? Okay. I do want to recognize our clerk is here. Yes, smile. That's Lindsay. And then the staff of the election office is sitting right over here taking care of everything. Alan and David, and I'm glad they are here. Also, where'd Andrea go? Andrea is the election administrator from Llano County, and she's come down to join us, and she'll be here. So, with those introductions in mind, we want to deal with the question on the screen. And as we do, I want you to notice kind of our pledge to people is that we want all eligible voters in this county, Gillespie County, who are properly registered to vote in this county, to feel comfortable to vote here. Over the life of this country, we've had a real interesting history in voting. In front of me, for you to look at later, are some absolutely inspiring books. There's three of them. This one begins in 1904. That one, I think, 1910. That one over there in 1920s or so, somewhere. Those are records of elections in Gillespie County. Some of them are handwritten. Some of them have pages that have been taped in there. It is fascinating to look at those books, to know that those of us that are involved in elections get to be part of the history of this county. So take a look as you can tonight and enjoy. You can flip through back there. Adolf, Don, are you related to Adolf?
Yes.
Bill was looking. This was 1904. And he was part of that election. It's terrific that we take care of our things like that. And I think that the history of elections is really varied. I'm from Tennessee, and if you've got any of your history about it, you might know of the famous riot in McMinn County. It turned into literally a day-and-a-half war. It was famous to those of us who took Tennessee history in the 8th grade. We were required to know the names of the 96 counties in Tennessee, west to east. Back in the day when Tennessee talked about being three separate states, West Tennessee, Center, East Tennessee. But this actually took place. I want to describe it to you. It was August of 1946. The citizens in Athens and Etowah accused local officials of predatory policing, police brutality, political corruption, and voter intimidation. One of the leaders was quoted as saying, "I got out and started organizing with a bunch of the 3,000 GIs, all recently having fought in World War II. The battle went on for hours, and the result was a complete new government in McMinn County." Wow, what a difference. Today, we struggle to get people to go out and block walk. They went out and did big deal there. Continuing in the history, my favorite president, okay, make this work, Jim. There it is, Thomas Jefferson. Do you guys know that in order to vote for Thomas Jefferson as for the House of Burgesses, that you had to stand up and make that known? I vote for Mr. Jefferson, and then you sit down. The next guy, I vote for whoever it was. You had to vote in public. Okay, that's one way. What about these people? To make themselves known that they voted. You know from this picture, this goes back to the days of the Iraq War when an attempt was made, not very good, but made that we would install democracy. We have trouble today getting everybody to take "I voted" sticker and take it with them. Wearing it proudly, it doesn't seem to be quite as big as it was that time. Or maybe you grew up in the Wild West, and the decisions in voting might have just come down to hearing somewhere on the streets, "I'm your Huckleberry," from a guy like Doc. So, where are we? Thanks for coming. I do appreciate those of you that are here. As we planned this, Alan, David, and Lindsay and I began to look back on my experience before I ever became a Republican clerk, and then a judge, and then getting involved with the executive committee and so forth. And the first one I remember goes back to my high school days. You historians are going to figure out what I'm getting ready to tell you pretty quickly. It was 1964. In my high school, our government and civics teacher, every presidential election year, divided the seniors into the two parties. Just drew them out of a hat. And I got drawn and was placed on the Republican side. Eventually, I became the spokesman. I led the debates. I led the speeches. We campaigned all through the fall. I mean, we started in September all the way to the election. We held the election. And for the first time in 4 cycles that our teacher had led, the winner in our school lost the election. Yeah, I was the Barry Goldwater of Messick High School at the time. I've been suspicious of elections ever since. But we learned a lot about how our Constitution worked, and many of those students at dear old Messick High School became active in Memphis politics at a time when Memphis politics were all over the national news. I graduated in '65. Put your history head to there, and you can tell it was a quick jump to 1968 and Martin Luther King. Yesterday, no, 2 days ago now, 2 days ago, one of our recently trained deputy voter registrars, Leslie Starr-Hart, and Barbara Elmoy registered 10 first-time voters at Fredericksburg High School. They went over and sat with these kids, got them to fill out the forms, and we had 10 new voters. As it turned out, David and Alan started going through the forms, and 5 of those kids were already registered. So no, we didn't have 5 duplicates anymore, because these 2 guys do an incredible job at keeping our voter rolls right. At Messick, we learned that voting is about choosing. Choosing, it's selecting, it's debating, and decision-making. And throughout the centuries, many ways of choosing have been used. Jesus had his garments divided by casting of lots at the foot of the cross. Matthias was chosen as one of the 12 by casting lots. And a sufficient amount of prayer, I'm sure. Casting lots, drawing lots, giving lots are all terms used in the Bible to describe various forms of cleromancy. Anybody know the definition of that? I didn't until I looked this up, which is a combination of random casting and seeking divine will. In modern times, it would be the equivalent of flipping a coin, drawing straws, rolling dice to determine God's will. There's 70 instances of casting lots in the Old Testament, 7 in the New. Today, maybe it's more fun. Ceremonial coin toss at the start of a football game has grown. It used to be a way for the captains to say hi to their friends on the other team before going back and tearing their heads off. Now, it's strategic. If I win, do I defer to the second half? And you can bet on that choice for this year's Super Bowl, by the way. In baseball, the bat is tossed. You grab the bat and then you do this to find out who gets to pick first. Charles Barkley celebrates when he's chosen first in a pickup game in the backyard playground with kids. Rock, paper, scissors even has a fancy name called farkling as a way to choose. In voting, it is about choosing. Choosing where we stand on issues. Am I just loyal to my party? Or is the line too long at the tax assessor's office and I'm going to vote him out? What are your issues? Using our current system, you're required to exercise trust outside the things you can control. We don't cast lots, and that's our topic for tonight. Quick commercial. You know the saying, trust but verify? I'm asking you to trust. Let me tell you how you could verify. Volunteer to help us. There's lots of things going on right now. The elections office looks for volunteers. Those are hand counting are looking for volunteers. Get involved yourself to find out what's going on. I recommend it. It's my goal tonight to set your minds at ease regarding the system the Gillespie County voters were part of choosing several years ago. While watching carefully and doing the due diligence, our election staff and the many clerks and judges seek to find problems that may come up and address them. We don't have a solution looking for a problem. We have a dependable system which is also accurate and timely. It's not a situation like when the neighbor's kid playing in his own backyard stomps on his flowers and you tell your kid he can't play in your backyard anymore. We have a problem to fix, then we need to know it and we'll fix it. Our department will take the heat if lines get long, not enough ballots have been ordered, if the count takes longer than we hope it will. How could all this happen? Those are the questions that will be asked. Well, we'll answer those. The hand count will not make our elections in Gillespie County better. Based on a percentage, it will be hard to exceed the remarkable record in recent years of accuracy using the current equipment, which, by the way, have been in the hands of the same judges who will be hand counting. This system is the same one the voters in Gillespie County helped the previous election department and county commissioners choose. My personal skepticism, and it was you, by the way, Jerry, the first person I saw with a poll pad, I thought, oh no. But my own skepticism was overcome by using them in the many elections I've been part about. Think about this. When informed that my staff would be planning for additional overtime hours beginning on the night of March 5, the answer was a proposal from a young hand counter that he could have a computer program ready to verify the count, which could be uploaded to the Secretary of State's office. When I got through doing this and wondered how would our tested and certified poll pads not be trusted, but he was asking me to trust his program in his personal computer, which would have to be 13 computers to pull that off. I asked him that question, and the silence was clear. I love that guy. He's one of the finest young men we know. Oh, by the way, my research shows that kind of thing is illegal anyway. Let's look more specifically. And as we do, be aware that the bane of election administrators everywhere is that not every one of you voters is required to come in individually to the one clerk who never makes mistakes, so that every vote is perfect. That's what we want. But that'll never happen. Mistakes will happen. We have human beings who are being judges and clerks who actually do the job at most 3 times a year. As a new clerk, and then the precinct 1 judge over many elections, I made mistakes. I remember when spoiling a ballot, spoiling a ballot, we were First United Methodist Church, letting an elderly voter take the spoiled ballot back to the booth so that she could remember her correct votes. Right or wrong? Wrong. You don't do that. Nobody gets to have 2 ballots in their hands. It was nicely pointed out to me by someone from the elections office who just happened to be checking on things in the various precincts. I've seen judges return unvoted ballots with their voted ballots in the same container. I've seen forms come back with only 1 signature, which was required to have at least 2 and hopefully more. I've seen alternate judges accept a photo ID on a phone. So many things wrong about that. But the judge was a guy and she was cute. Well, I can't tell you what that was part of. An unsigned ballot issued. When an error occurs, we address them and, if possible, fix them. This election, our judges in the Democrat primary will all be acting as judge for the first time in 2 years. They all have experience, though, as alternates and clerks. But like all judges, they will always be thinking, did I forget something? Every one of these judges has that thought. I don't care how many years you've done it. Maybe Betty Hahn. Betty Hahn's been doing it so long, she seems the most comfortable. In the Republican primary, the 13 judges will consist of 7 judges who have served as judge in several elections, 2 judges in their second, and 3 judges who will be the judge for the first time. What could go wrong with that? So, is it safe? Yes, and so will this one be. Okay, so will this one be. Your ballot, I'm going to give you its trip to your hand. What you see here, anybody recognize the spot? You'd be really, really, really good. You were in one of the cars, that's not fair. This is right outside of Deedles, the printer, and that's the road that goes up into, what's it called? Heritage. Okay, Deedles is right here. That's Bruce Campbell's car, the constable. Alan's in that car, and my little car's back in the back. We had just picked up 10,000 ballots that had been printed there. And they were escorted in that convoy back to the election office, where they were then securely placed in the ballots, locked. It was kind of fun. We felt kind of big. Matter of fact, Bruce stopped the thing in order to get out and take this picture. So those ballots began their life after being printed, being taken care of. That's the door. The door you can barely see is the entrance to my office. This is the ballot storage room in the office. Many of you now come in the office. It's more open than it was in the past. You see that clipboard? Every time we open that door, we being myself, Alan, or David, there are two of us because there are ballots locked up in there. So you can see if you look at the clipboard, we've been in and out a bunch of times since. That is another way we take care of our ballots. So, you want to steal one of our ballots? I'll let you know that the office door to get into this office requires a key. You don't have it. These keys are very well protected over there. One of the easy things about it is the IT department is right in the next building, and we can make sure our keys, right? And so you'd have to have that. That door, well, I don't have that picture up. That vault door requires the key. In that room is a key safe that requires a code. I'm not going to tell you the code. Once you open that and find the two keys that are in there, you got to know, wait, one of them's one color and one's another. Which goes where? So you got to go out and figure out which of these two huge cabinets that are locked up is the one I'm going to use. In the vault, the ballots are locked in ballot boxes, which are then sealed top and bottom. And once a ballot is obtained out there, it's still not active until it's signed by me or the presiding judge on the day of. That's just how we take care of your ballot. To that point, we use paper ballots. I think that's the key to this whole thing. No matter what system, that paper ballot can be counted and recounted and all kinds of things, and it's precinct-based. That means that piece of paper, and by the way, I have to account for, let me do the math real quick, 10,000 Republican ballots and 1,850, is that right? 1,850 Democrat ballots, and I have to account for them one by one. So when the judges come on Monday in order to do the day of, they get a pile of ballots and they're numbered, and we give them a form and they sign for it that those numbers are there, and they either vote them or don't vote them. They come back in 3 or 4 ways, and I have to record all that. Every piece of paper's got to be accounted for. You want to get an extra ballot to vote? Go open your own print shop, because you're not going to get it from us. It just isn't there. They are kept behind lock and key. They're kept behind zip ties and key cards. They're watched over by presiding judges and the election clerks. They're offered to the voter, by the way, in choices of 3. And I always get that annoying question. Why do we do it in 3s? The voter, just give me one. No, you get to choose. Matter of fact, we put them down on the table and they choose there. We don't even hand them out to them. It's just their choice. Another way of them picking. Yes, the 3 are identical. Okay, but if you come in for early voting, let's say the Republicans, there are 13 different ballots. You got to get the right one or you can't vote. That's the way you're registered in the poll pad. So you're handed a slip, and the slip goes to the clerk, and the clerk gives you the right ballot to choose from. Look and make sure it's your precinct. It's supposed to be, okay? You can't vote if you're in precinct 1, helping me, Jerry, or which one do you run in this time?
4, 9, 13.
Okay, somebody comes rolling in with 2 into your precinct, they can't vote, because you don't have that ballot for them. So not only are they paper ballots, but they're precinct-based, which cuts the availability to remanufacture them. And the voter then takes this ballot, and they mark their own ballot. And the corrections are in the hands of the voter. It doesn't require someone to take a judgment of how did they intend to vote. So, you're not going to steal the ballot. The voter hand marks the ballot. And after marking the ballot, they place the ballot in the regular elections into the scanner, this in the early voting and day of, into a ballot box for the Republican. The Democrats are still using the scanner. We have examples of these over here. And you're going to get to use them tonight if you decide you want to vote our early voting mock election, because they're set up ready to run. By the way, they're set up ready to run the mock election. There's nothing about that that affects the upcoming elections. They're going to have to be cleansed and done right. I don't even know what the term for it is anymore. But you'll vote in that scanner, or if you'd like to try out the Duo, y'all, I've told the clerks, my favorite thing about getting more and more into this was learning the Duo. The Duo is the one that's ADA. It allows that blind voter to vote. How many of you know Duncan? Yeah, first name. I don't even have to go to the last name. Duncan comes in at early voting. He doesn't vote day of. He wants to make sure he votes. And he comes in, and if he hears my voice, he gets loud. All right, Jim, where's my machine? He goes over there. All I have to do is make sure I beat him to it, because you have to code in to turn in the right precinct. And you watch and be inspired, a man like that who's an amazing piano player, but he takes that little controller, not being able to see a whit, and he votes. And I don't know if he's voting Republican or not, but assuming that he does, he'll vote both sides of that ballot, and he'll get it done, and it'll print out, and whoever's helping him will be able to confirm that was his votes, and then he goes and puts it. So if you're running an election, and I've got one judge, I don't want to miss anybody, but at least one judge here, and somebody wants to use that, let them. You're going to be inspired. Somebody with a lot of shake. They can see, but they can't see to mark an X or put however you're marking your ballot. But they can go to that machine and do it. So maybe we'll let somebody, and it is set up for the mock election. So if somebody wants to vote the mock election with that, you'll see Alan over there, and we'll make that happen. But the voting to have that ballot that they put in, it may not be marked correctly. And it will alert the voter. What happens is the voters voted, let's say that a Republican ballot again. The Republican ballot's got a whole backside. A lot of people just vote the front, don't even think, or even if they were told, don't forget to vote both sides. It's a long ballot. They might just get done and go over and try to put it in the scanner. Scanner's going to go, whoop. Everybody's going to go, oh, what is that? But the scanner will have a little thing that'll say, you didn't vote the back page. Did you mean to do that? Maybe the voters are tired and they don't care about the questions being asked on the back. Yeah, they can hit the button and it'll take the ballot. Or they voted twice. They're in love with everybody running for sheriff, so they picked 2 guys instead of 3, or picked all 3 of them. Okay, as unlikely as that would be, for that reason, just kidding, Buddy and Chris, it will tell you, you voted too many times. Do you want to leave it that way? Well, the clerk and the judge will tell that voter, if you leave it that way, that vote won't count. But we can spoil the ballot, get you a new ballot, and you can start over. All of that happens in the process that we use with the scanner. And once they have correctly done that and dropped it, you'll see today, we're leaving everything open. We don't even have the privacy screens up. Once you start voting, you're welcome to get up and wander over there and watch. You're welcome to kibitz today. You're not supposed to talk to each other when you vote. You've seen the ballot. It's going to be hard not to talk to one another when you vote. Okay? Nobody's going to jump on you today. Okay? Those rules don't apply. If you get a ballot and you want to vote and you say, well, gosh, what do you mean? This is stupid. Yeah, vote. You'll see it drop into the ballot bag. It's really pretty cool thing. But you won't see that on day of, and you won't see that in early voting. Why? Because study this, I call it a pack and play. The bottom of that folds up so that you can carry it, and so it pinches your fingers. It's terrible that way. But it's sealed in 3 different locations when we get ready to vote. And it won't be unsealed till the end of the night. Same thing will happen in your precinct. If you're voting Republican, that ballot box will have a back seal on it that will never come off, and the front seal will be sealed at the end of the night. And there's some issues there as far as remembering which ballot thing you're using and so forth. So, features of our system. This is kind of the, try not to fall asleep. It's air-gapped, encrypted hard drives, least privilege access controls. Election managers only have access to the parts of this system that are required to do their jobs. Passwords and pins are required to start and open and close, and they change every election. If you were a judge at the last election and you finally remembered the code, sorry, you're going to have to learn new code. Two-factor authentication. Number 8, it's an embedded operating system. All features not related to election management have been eliminated, further reducing the attack surface for malicious threats. We could go on and on about that. I think you catch my flavor. So what do they look like? Give you a picture up here. The one on the left is called a duo, and they have a little different wand than the one we use. Ours looks more like if you were playing a computer game. You'll hold that up over there if you would, Alan. It's just a simple piece, okay? And it's, by the way, it's marked in Braille. Good thinking. It's not just knowing how to do it. You can read how to do it with that. And it's got a headset so that you're listening. Every word on that ballot, every individual word on the ballot, Alan and I sat down and listened and confirmed that's the right word. Took us a while. I don't remember quite how long. But the whole ballot was done through that so that the voter hears accurately. The one on the right is the scanner. The ballot goes in the front, either way, up or down, just as long as you aren't folding it like an airplane. It will signal that your ballot's in there, and a little flag comes up. It's an annoying little beep, and you get your sticker that I hope you will wear, and you're on your way. So you're going to get to see these tonight. To reiterate, this platform, which is open tonight, has 3 seals that are placed on the platform by the presiding judge and the alternate judge at the opening of the polls. Our training recommendation to the judges is it sits just like you see it here until the first voter with a ballot walks over there. And you ask that voter to look in the bag to make sure there aren't already some ballots in there, and then the bag is shoved back into place, the final lock is put on, and they vote the first one. Even have a voter helps confirm this thing. After the polls close, the seals are broken, the ballot bag is removed and immediately sealed to be transported back to the election office. In the case of the Republicans, they will still be counting, and then they'll seal it. There's a process that they've worked on. They've got steps and things. Your ballot will be watched, even in that process. The ballots in the bags that have gone through the full process of the scanner remain in those bags. And if a partial recount is called by the Secretary of State, that's the first time those ballots are opened. And then all those ballots are kept in a vault that requires a key. Oh, buddy, do you have those keys?
Yes, I do.
Well, thank you. On November 16th at the canvas, the keys to this vault were given to our sheriff. Thank you, kind sir. See that? You got a picture of that? These keys are the first time I've had them in my hands since November 16th. And tomorrow, we will get in and start taking those ballots. No, day after tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be bad. And we will then pack your ballots, all of the materials that were part of the November election, tape them shut, mark them for destruction 22 months from today, from that day. And these are the keys. You sure?
Yes, sir.
Where have they been?
They've been locked in my desk.
Thank you. We really appreciate that. I'm going to leave them out where people can see them. Not going to swap keys. So what we have, whoop, I didn't give you that one. What we have is a voting system. This is the system that the voters tested, the commissioners approved, that is federally tested, state tested, and certified. It's a voting system where votes are cast on paper. There's no direct record electronic voting called DRE. This is not where you vote on the, I couldn't be part of that. There are no votes in barcodes. Your county election team performs, and this will happen next week, a logic and accuracy test that's open to the public before, during, and after the election, required by state law, and an LAT is a hand count. And we test the various machines that will be out in the election. Next Thursday, isn't it? I think. Yeah. You're welcome to come. It'll be at 10 o'clock in the morning next Thursday. It's open to the public. We perform what's called a hash validation of the software that's being run on these computers that we use to input the totals off the scanners. A hash validation. Boy, that's one of those things that makes me scratch my head. Basically, what it does is there's a series of numbers. People like Wes that do computers and other people would probably know this. There's a series of numbers that basically look like a VIN number on your car, about this long, and if you read it wrong, your insurance guy says, no, sorry, you didn't have that car insured. And it's a whole bunch of those. And they're verified, the same as when we bought these, and the same every election. And there's a history of that. We do post-election auditing that I've described to you that is called a partial manual count, and that's a hand count. So, that in all, boy, are we proud of this. Look at the number on that slide, 122. That's how many people have attended the various clerk and judge training classes that our elections office has offered. 122 people. These are people that, a lot of them come in just as nervous as a cat. And you can't tell them all that they need to know. And then they've got all the way, in this case, till May to forget it. Okay? Because they're not getting to it week after week. I've been in this job officially since August, and I don't have all the lingo down. There's just so much. By the way, just for an example, that's the election code. We keep a Bible sitting beside the election code that's one of the thickest ones I've ever owned. And it isn't as big. The phrase is, what's up with that? But what we do with the clerks and the judges includes both parties. It includes the Democrat and Republican chairs. And we sit down and I give them instruction and we have Q&A. We have 2 more of those scheduled for the clerks. This Wednesday, tomorrow, 12:30. Next Wednesday, 12:30. And then we have 2 remaining classes that we're offering for the judges. One of whom has never been a judge and is so far hadn't come to a training. So I scheduled that one based on his availability. I hope more people come, but if it's just that judge, we'll sit down together. These are people in the community that want to be part of and help keep our elections good. If you haven't done that, well, some of you have. I'm looking right here. And, there's a bunch out here. Get involved with that. Maybe you don't want to spend the whole day doing that. Maybe you want to be like the ladies I mentioned earlier. You want to be a deputy voter registrar. Maybe you want to be a poll watcher. There's training for that that's provided by the Secretary of State. I'm not being run out of here. Okay. One other thing I want to tell you about before we vote. Ballots by mail. I do not like, in principle, voting by mail. Okay? I have friends in other states that automatically get a packet to vote, whether they want one or not. That's not what happens in Gillespie County, though. Okay? We lost count. I asked Alan, how many steps do we go through? Y'all, this one is just a blank one. But you got to stamp the primary, you got to stamp the date of the election, you got to stamp the county, and that's just on the outside of that one envelope. And then inside that is a green envelope that comes back to us. And we got to stamp that. We got to write the voter's name on this. We've got to put a return address label. It goes on and on. All of this gets mailed to a voter with one other item. The ballot goes in here. And in order to get this, the voter themselves has to apply for it every year. Now, Alan and David have taken the lead on this, as so many things they have done. The fact is, when Lindsay started walking by, I was wondering if she was telling me I was done. They do so much, and one of them is to keep track of this. We get ready to do a ballot by mail, guess what we have to go do? For just one voter, if we got one in the mail tomorrow, we turn them around that quickly, we've got to go into that door I told you about, go into that code box, get the code, get the key, go to the ballot, even to pull one ballot out, and we have to write it down. We put a new lock on that box and write that down. And what goes out then is a ballot that's just like the one you'll vote day of, and it requires them to do it. And then guess who doesn't get to play with it? It comes back in the mail. When it comes back in the mail, we check a couple of things, match it up with what was mailed out, and drop it in a box, and that will go with Tammy Keener and the ballot by mail board to decide whether or not that's a legitimate ballot. We don't even have to make that final decision. Your stuff is taken care of, folks. Or at least we make one noble effort. I'll show you how noble. And then we're going to tell you what's next. That actually makes sense. That's how hard it would be to jump our system. Now, please understand, we took a napkin, and Alan started drawing, and he said, well, I don't think, what if they went, and the next thing you know, we ended up with this. But if you start at the top, you see that there are applications come in, and voter information goes different places, and all the way down till the ballot scanner has picked up the ballot, and then the results are uploaded to the Secretary of State. Y'all, there's one place One of the bad actors could jump this system that we have in Gillespie County, and that's in Austin. You're not going to jump it on our poll pads. You're not going to jump it on our scanners. People have tried in other counties that use the same equipment we have. What we have here is a bunch of people that have really done a good job running elections with this equipment. And they've been accurate elections. So, you want to see how it works? Where's the hat? Okay. I'm going to start drawing names. And since I'm not voting, I'll just draw them myself. And
The next intergenerational game day is March 27th at 3:30 at Llano County Library. Talk About the Hill Country wants to remind listeners that libraries are a great resource. Books are only the beginning. Patrons can take workshops on crafts, healthy living, exercise, and much more. Library apps make ebooks and Audible books available for free. We have many great libraries here in the KNAF listening area in Fredericksburg, Johnson City, Bernie, Llano, Marble Falls, Brady, Harper, and Mason, to name just a few. Make a visit to the library one of your fun field trips this week. Talk About the Hill Country is a service of KNAF and HC Broadcasting. If your business or organization has an event or a new service coming up in the days, weeks, or months ahead, contact us to be put on the calendar. Talk About the Hill Country comes on every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. on KNAF AM 910. Call KNAF at 830-997-2197, fax 830-997-2198, or email knafnews@gmail.com.